Hello there, YouTube. I'm making this video just as a statement of support for some people and an acknowledgement of what is happening in the world right now. I made a video a while back where I said that no, the USA isn't turning fascist. And I made this because of all the people who were reacting to Donald Trump being elected and acting like they were somehow going to live in a fascist state. Largely idiots who don't actually know what's going on. They don't know what Donald Trump's policies are, what he intends to enact, what his campaign was all about. They don't know any of it. So they made shit up in their own head. And then they cried about it. It's why abortion was the third most important issue when it came to campaigning in the US general election, despite the fact that the Supreme Court have already overturned Roe v. Wade and bumped it down to state issue, which means that neither politician would have had any ability to do anything about abortion, and Donald Trump wasn't planning to ban it anyway. So all the rhetoric was nonsense. It was literally Kamala Harris lying to everyone. That's the level that they were at. To be fair, the Americans, by electing Donald Trump, have chosen to have a free and open election where they're going to have... because, let's face it, the Democrats are doing election fraud. We know they were. They've decided to vote to secure their borders, to secure their economy, and to vote against woke bullshit. This is all good stuff. But they've also voted against censorship and a movement towards authoritarianism. A movement basically towards fascism. And the opposite is happening everywhere else. It's uncomfortable to say this as a European, but I'm starting to feel quite jealous of America. Because everywhere else is doing the opposite. We've seen policies come out of Canada, Australia, New Zealand, all across Europe. Here in Britain, Labour and two-tier Kia has proven that we can be arrested for making any social media post. Hell, I could be arrested for this video because I've called him two-tier Kia. Like, something that tiny would be enough. The fact that my position would be considered right-wing would be enough that I could be arrested for having it. Britain is now a police state where disagreeing with the government is illegal. It is fucking pathetic. But we're not alone. We're not alone in that. It was only earlier in this year that journalists and news stations were being raided by the German police for daring to go against against the German government. The ADF were looking to be banned from standing for election because, they oppose the government and they're popular. So that means they need to be banned immediately, because we can't have a popular opposition to the government. They might, challenge the government. We can't be having that. So that's what happened there. Geert Wilders was very popular in Netherlands. He won enough that he was the largest party, but all the other parties worked together to keep him out of a position of actual authority. They basically tried to jury-rig the system as best they could to make sure that his party would not have control, even though it was the largest party with the most votes, in the hope that they could force the left-wing agenda. The same thing has been happening in France, where Marine Le Pen is facing challenges to whether or not she'll even be able to stand for election, and possible legal challenges. The same thing they did to Donald Trump, where they came up with jumped-up charges. And it's not just Europe. Look at what's happened in South Korea. It was only literally this morning, I say this, half an hour after I read the news story, that martial law was passed in South Korea in order to prevent the opposition from being able to vote on anything. They literally had to scale walls and break into their own parliament building in order to force the Prime Minister to give up martial law, all because he wanted control, all because of authoritarianism. This is sickening what's happening right now. The only country where I'm seeing the opposite happen is in the United States, where there is a huge movement that is successfully pushing for freedom. And that is not a healthy state to be in right now. Now, the rest of the world is suffering even more. We've got, the wars in Russia and Ukraine, the wars in the Middle East, with Israel and Hamas, and in Yemen, and with Iran now involved in all of these wars. There's still wars happening across Africa, and it looks like it's going to be heating up even further. It will likely get worse before it gets better in most of these areas. So not only is the West moving towards authoritarianism, outside of the West, we have legitimate violence bordering on existential level of war that could lead to World War III. Like, this is not a good state to be in right now, and it makes me uncomfortable about talking when it even comes to talking about it, because I know that at this point, this isn't just a case of we have bad shit happening. There's always been bad shit happening, but the world is backsliding. The entire world is backsliding. We now have active authoritarianism leaching itself into every major Western nation, and fascist dictatorships across the world are gaining power. I'm now at the point where I no longer feel confident that Western civilization and NATO is going to win out the day in wars like in the Ukraine war, because even though we do have more power, NATO is so much more powerful than Russia and any of its allies, assuming that we don't obliterate each other with nuclear weapons, in which case everyone dies. Even if America wasn't involved, European NATO would still be enough to trounce Russia without a thought, even if Iran and North Korea were backing them up. They'd at the very least need China to back them up completely in order to stand a chance against us. So yeah, there's no real threat militarily, but ideologically there is. Because we still live in a society where you can't do anything anymore without fascistic authoritarian regimes cracking down on you. Maya Tusi from Tusi TV was being arrested because he was recording a pro-Palestinian protest, and apparently the government have decided if you're not part of a union, which is heavily leaning to the left anyway, and he's an independent journalist, so why would he be a member of a journalist union anyway? If you're not part of those unions and you don't pay the fees and you don't sign up to their systems, you don't count as a journalist. They can just decide unilaterally what a journalist is, which is not right. And then they can treat you like an agitator and arrest you and restrict your movements. This is just ridiculous. Jeremy Clarkson was arrested in Britain for joining the farmers' protests, because regulations are being put in place that are strangling the British farmer. And it's not just in Britain. It's been happening in France. It's been happening in the Netherlands. I mean, at one point in France, they were literally spraying horse shit and cow shit across all the different buildings in protest, because that was the only way they could get their voice heard. This is the kind of stuff that we're ending up with now in Britain. Is everything is in protest, because it seems to be the only way we get anywhere. We now have a petition to have a new general election in the UK that has over 3 million signatures, because Keir Starmer has been such a raging fascist that he's happy to let rapists and violent criminals and paedophiles walk free out of the prison system after serving only a fraction of their prison terms, so that he can arrest and convict in kangaroo courts, 24-hour courts, with no real official judicial system behind it. Like, this isn't a proper court. This is a Mickey Mouse court. And they're getting arrested and serving sometimes up to 18 months for a tweet, because they posted something or just liked a post on social media. The fact that I'm talking about this now could land me in prison. That is ridiculous. I should not fear in my country that my government is going to attempt to lock me up because I deem to declare that the government are fascist, incompetent, and frankly evil. All they're doing, if they do arrest me, is proving my goddamn point. But, I mean, Tommy Robinson is still in prison. What did he do? He criticised the government, which is basically all he's ever done. He criticised the government, and because he is a pariah who has a history of being restricted by the government, they will continue to restrict him because they can get away with it with him. It's expected, so no one really kicks up enough of a stink. So Tommy Robinson's now been in prison for the last month, and he's likely to be serving an 18-month sentence unless something can happen to pressure the government to let him out. But how do you pressure a government that has more than two-thirds of the seats in our parliament? 650 seats, they have well over 400 seats. We have no means of stopping them. If they wanted to, they could pass any law they wanted. They could restrict any of our rights, and we have no recourse. This is a problem. The UK is really suffering right now in this way. But again, like I say, martial law was declared in South Korea. The biggest opposition party was banned from running in elections in Germany. France had legal cases brought against Marine Le Pen. In America, they attempted to arrest, convict, and lock away Donald Trump. When that didn't work, they tried to shoot the fucker. I did say that no, America isn't turning fascist, because the crazy people on the left seem to believe that anyone they disagree with is a fascist. The problem is, I think I might have been wrong. America may not be turning fascist because it's the only country that has had enough pushback to reject the authoritarian left. But that doesn't mean there wasn't an attempt. And it's quite disturbing how much the Western world is turning towards authoritarianism. I worry about where we go from here. I worry about the fact that in Britain right now, owning a copy of George Orwell's 1984 and Lord of the Rings is considered to be a warning sign of extremist right-wing thought. I am not fucking joking. Both of those books, George Orwell's 1984 and Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, are on on a government watch list of problematic books. If that doesn't say something, I don't know what does. Well, I just wanted to get that out and vent a little bit. I'll talk to you guys some other time, assuming that I'm not speeded away to the fucking gulag in the process. If so, you'll hear about it, because I've already got a pre-recorded video set on my account that will inform you if I do get arrested. I set it up to post every 48 hours, so if I get arrested within 48 hours, it will inform the internet. And I just change it each time to prolong the date before it releases. Because legitimately people are being arrested because they quote tweet someone. You can be arrested for anything. Like those posts on the internet where I've said that the government are incompetent and they need to be slapped around a bit, like or words to that effect, and that would be enough now. Like I have said simple things like that there are only two biological genders, and that is reality. There are no other kinds of genders. Gender is biological. There's only two genders. The fact that I've said that publicly, that's enough. The fact that I've said that Hamas and the ruling parties of the Palestinian state are a terrorist organisation looking to wipe out the Jews, and that Israel has a right to defend itself, the fact that I've said that would be enough to arrest me. These are not controversial opinions. These are perfectly normal opinions. But we now have a fascist, quasi-socialist, and I hate to claim that they're socialist, because The thing that the right wing does a lot is equate socialism with authoritarianism and fascism. They're not the same. I am a socialist myself. Socialism is not authoritarianism. It just so happens that for some bizarre reason, a lot of socialist groups tend towards fascism. And a lot of them do more of the fascism than they do of the socialism. I'm not seeing much in the way of actual active socialism from the Labour Party. I'm seeing a fuckload of authoritarianism, though. I haven't seen them, help the hospitals, build themselves up and increase funding for the NHS. I've not seen them help build more housing for the homeless or bring the energy systems into public ownership. I've not seen them make the trains into public service, owned and run by the government. I've not seen them bring into public ownership any utilities. None of this seems to be happening. That's socialism. What I have seen is them take away socialist policies, such as the protection on the winter fuel allowance for pensioners and disabled people, which the Labour Party were very quick to get rid of because old people vote Conservative. So, who gives a shit if they die in the cold during the winter? Yeah. If these are socialists, they're fucking awful ones. Right, well, I'm finished ranting anyway. I'll talk to you guys again later. Until then, bye.